Hello. Okay, so the other day I was in my Instagram stories and I had shared that I've always been afraid to get started because I felt like what I had to put out there was perfect and I was afraid of change. I was on a walk sharing my heart, what was coming up, and I was surprised how many of you were saying that you feel the same way. And so here we are, we're talking on the podcast today about this fear getting in the way, and we're going to talk like we're besties, because we're besties. Hey, I'm Lacie Jaye. Welcome to Hey Lacie Jaye, the podcast where we take a whole ass approach to life. I've shared I'm nervous getting started, and I'll share kind of what I've been nervous about, kind of what's been coming up in just a moment. I share that with you, but then when I hear other women are also struggling and getting started, I am like, oh, heck no. No way. You have magic inside of you. I see it. I believe it. I'm going to share it with you. I see what you can do with your business and how you're helping the community and you're helping and creating this massive ripple effect. And so it's interesting. What happens is because I see that vision in other people, it also gives me this spark inside. So this idea of fear of getting started because it's not perfect. The other day, I was in the shower, kind of having a moment of being freaking out, breathing heavy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like there might be a panic attack. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I had recorded last week's podcast episode on this idea of using affiliate marketing or social selling as affiliate marketing. And that opened, being able to use my voice on that, because it has been something that's been inside of me for 2 years. Being able to voice that, put that out into the world, peeled away a layer, another onion layer, and expose something more, right? I had shared that I have partnered with multiple different companies, ones that I truly do believe in and that I love. But what came up for me is this idea that I have also been holding back on something that I know that I've been called to do because I've had the vision for it, and it is time. And so by trying to start another company and to be a part of something else, I realized I'm not actually doing fully what I am called to do. And I think that I'm going to do another podcast next week on this idea of compromise, because I looked at my gene keys and one of my gifts within human design, which was number 14, and it brought up a whole bunch of stuff, which I'm really excited to unpack a little bit more with you next week. But I want to talk about this idea of not getting started because it has to be perfect and you're afraid to change. You're afraid that, well, if I put it out into the world, what if I shift? Or what if once I put it out there, all of a sudden I see something else, so I need to shift, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to pivot here. Friends, if there is one thing that I have seen women do, and I am preaching to myself right now, some of the most successful women I know have put out, say, a program, or they have put something out into the world. And as they change and grow, so does their program. Now, maybe it's a signature program, or it's something that they're putting out into the world that really has, the meat and potatoes of it will not change, but they go and rewrite it. Right now I'm watching and hearing about Jenna Kutcher. She has multiple things that she puts out. It's once a year, multiple programs she puts out, and they go out, they sell out, she's done for the year. She'll do it again next year. In her stories the other day, she's like, oh, I'm completely writing. Shoot, I cannot remember which program. She's like, oh yeah, I'm redoing it. I'm revamping it. I'm rewriting it. Because she's changed. There's new knowledge. There's new ways that she's probably viewing things. And so as she's shifted and enough has changed, she's like, sweet, I'm just going to rewrite this program. How awesome is that? I'm updating it for my people. The thing is if we wait until it's perfect, it will never go out there because we are changing as humans and the world is changing. And so it will never have the chance. I am coming more from the perspective of launching something called Arise and Radiate that was given to me 3 years ago now. And granted, I do believe that I had to go what I've gone through over the last few years to now be able to put it out there. But I can look back and say, if I would have really just put it out into the world, taking that inspired action, it would have been fine. And now I could be updating it and it could have already been out into the world, reaching people. It is rising rituals. It is something that I live by literally every single day. It is my life. And so I'm finally putting it onto paper to be able to put out into the world, because I truly believe that as you learn to create space in your own life, right, you get to then create your life. We're not here to talk about Arise and Radiate. I just wanted to share like what I'm putting out there. And then for you to think, what is it that you're wanting to create, to put out into the world that you haven't, because you've been held back by fear that it has to be perfect. You're just not alone in that. So I want to talk about inspiration, when you're inspired to when you take action. And this idea of in between inspiration and action is the space of where fear can come in. I did not come up with this. I have a woman that I met in dance class. Her name is Keira Brinton, and she is such an incredible human being. I even told her, I was like, you have to be on the podcast because I see what she is doing. And half the time on her Instagram, I'm like, that is literally for me. You're posting for me. But I also know that her divine inspiration is for so many other women. And the waves that she's making in this world is beautiful. Like, she helps people write a book or 2 books in 5 days. She'll sit with them. It's like download galore. It's channeling. What does this book need to be? I'm going to work with her one day. I'm just putting that out on the air right now because this woman is incredible. But the other day, she shared a reel, and it says, the space between inspiration and action is where you become a slave to fear. The longer you wait, the more fear controls you. And that's something that I could not unhear. In fact, I made a reel about it because this is so true. This is a space that I have lived in. The space of fear has consumed me for so many years that there's so much that I would have been able to put out into the world. But from the inspiration, which she says is meant to motivate you into taking that action, we just never take that action. And we sit there and we let our mind go in and we come up with excuses. Like, it could be something as big as a huge business that you want to put out into the world, or she had mentioned like bringing cookies to a neighbor. The longer you think about it, the more you make excuses of why you don't need to, and they might think you're dumb, or whatever conversation starts in your head. And I've always been one to say action creates clarity. Take inspired action. But the way that she put that and the visual that I had in my mind of, here's the inspiration that's meant to motivate you to take the action, but we sit here inspired and then we don't take the action, or we take a really long time to take the action. That divide, that space is where fear creeps in. And I think that's where so many of the women I was having conversation with in my DMs, that's where we've been stuck. Instead of saying, okay, this is a divine inspiration, I'm going to take the first step forward, right? And when you take that first step forward, it's like boom, boom, boom. Like, it's amazing how the ball starts rolling. And with that, which again is the interesting part with all of this, is when you take that action, you gain the clarity of where you're meant to go. But we are waiting to take the action because we want the full download or the full clarity in this exact moment or before you can get started. So, something to think about if you feel like you're stagnant or you're feeling stuck. Take time to realize, whoa, where are you not taking action? And to call in and say, what am I supposed to do? Where am I going? And where is that inspiration coming from? And then how can you take action quicker this time? Even that first little step. I share that with what I'm doing with Arise and Radiate. Again, it's been something that has been 3 years in the making. And when I first started, I did take inspired action, which I believe is why it's been on the back burner in my life. And I've lived it. But now the action that I'm taking is I need to sit down and write it. I need to put it on paper. I am taking the action because I have felt it's exhausting. It's frustrating to be in that place and to be able to say, all right, I'm moving forward with this. I don't know where it's going to take me. I don't know what the end result is going to be. I'm sure so many of her clients feel this way with a book. Like you have an idea where your book's going to go, but then you have this action that you're taking and the book ends up being exactly what it needs to be. Just like the product that you want to put out there, or the message that you want to put out there, or the business idea that you want to put out there, or the whatever it is that you want to put out there, probably will end up being a little bit different than where you start. But the thing is, we have to start. All right? Can we just make a promise to ourselves that we are not going to let fear hold us back any longer? It is time to take action. If you are feeling stuck, please send me a DM. The other day I had messaged one of the girls and I'm like, but what are you wanting to do? Like, how do we get you inspired? How do we get you moving? How do we get the ball rolling again? Because I am seeing what you're putting out there and you're pure magic. You have gold. It's just that helping to re-inspire, to remind people of who they are. And I feel like that is a gift that I have. So I will link Keira Brinton's Instagram so that you can follow her if you feel called to. She's so beautiful. I'm going to actually probably get off this podcast and write her an email about, hey, remember when we talked about you getting on the podcast? And I don't know, just take the next week to meditate on what's coming up inside, what is meant to be shared with the world. And then if it feels scary, like seriously, please message me because I will be your biggest cheerleader. I think this is what I've been called to do, is that the more that I help people build what they're meant to build in their dreams, the more my life comes into alignment. And so there we are. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening. If you feel like this podcast has helped you in any way, share it on your social media, tag me, share it with a friend. It is the quickest way to help us get this message out for those who need to hear what is being spoken. I'm excited to share the journey with you and do life with you and take a whole ass approach. Have such a good day.